charging. It's got a bunch of wires on it. They got a tow hitch, Texas manufacturer license plate. Dude, wish you could tell me more, bro. Wow. Welcome to Electrified. It's your host, Dylan Loomis. Quick shout out to my newest patron, Steve H. Thank you for choosing to support the channel. Wish he could tell us more indeed, but of course a lot of people are talking about the length of the cable. We've talked about this plenty. V4 superchargers do have the longer cable, so hopefully we see those in North America soon, as this Cybertruck, especially with the tow hitch, is pretty far back, very close to the stall itself, and of course almost touching this sign right here as well. The shorter V3 cables paired with the Cybertruck charging port being further up the vehicle, and given it's a longer vehicle than the other Teslas, it'll certainly be interesting to watch, but obviously Tesla's aware of this and it does indeed work, so we'll just have to make do for now. There was an interesting question posed on Reddit with regard to that Wall Street Journal article we talked about, Tesla winning 18% of the bids for those federal charger subsidies that are being doled out individually by the states. If Tesla's costs are indeed so much lower than the competition, why have they only won 18%? First of all, Tesla may have only bid on select locations, so hypothetically there's a world where every bid that Tesla made they actually got. Second, I would just add Tesla has already proved they can roll out a supercharger network without any money from the government, so any of these grants they receive, it's really just icing on the cake. 3, because Tesla has so much data, they know where the best locations to charge will be. They've been polling their customers now for years, so there are probably certain locations where the government may have wanted a location, but Tesla looked at it and said, nope, long term, we don't really like it, so they can actually deny subsidies in some cases. Because referring to point 2, Tesla doesn't actually need this money. And fourth, from a government state level perspective, they want diversity. They don't want to be reliant on one company, even if Tesla is the company to rely on. They, of course, will want to try to diversify and encourage competition, avoiding any monopoly scenarios. So yes, Tesla's option is far and away the best option, but we can't expect the government to give all of this money to Tesla, nor should we expect Tesla to want to set up shop in all of those locations. Because in the long run, Tesla is the company that then has to manage those locations. We got this press release from Honda today saying officially they're adopting the NACS, but you may remember back in the middle of August in an interview, Honda essentially said it was going to adopt the NACS because GM did, and if you recall in North America, the upcoming Honda Prologue and the Acura ZDX are both reliant on the Ultium platform, so it's almost like they didn't really have a choice. In the press release today, they said in 2025, Honda is planning to launch a new EV model in North America equipped with a NACS port. Before 2025, they'll use the CCS port, but these vehicles are also being developed to be compatible with the NACS through the use of an adapter. And the real question is, will we see any EVs from Honda or Acura next year, or will they be delayed until 2025? And the updated holdout list: VW, Hyundai, Kia, Stellantis, Lucid, Toyota, BMW, Jaguar, and Subaru. We got an exciting press release today from Hilton that hopefully we will see much more of going forward. Through an expanded agreement with Tesla, Hilton announced beginning early 2024, up to 20,000 Tesla universal wall connectors are slated to be installed at 2,000 hotels in the US, Canada, and Mexico, which will make their planned EV charging network the largest of any hospitality company. The plan is to have at least 6 chargers at each of the selected hotels, and they are supposed to be using Tesla's new universal wall connector that has that same magic dock feature, so all EVs can charge with these level 2 AC stations. Tesla's director of charging infrastructure, Rebecca Tanucci, said, "We applaud Hilton for their leadership in the space and look forward to continuing to ramp this critical program with other industry leaders." And listen to this. In 2023, Hilton said the website's EV charging search attribute had the fastest volume of growth to date, jumping from 4th to 2nd highest in terms of converting searches to stays. Hilton's chief brand officer said, "We're seeing a rapid and steep increase in the number of requests for EV charging. We're trying to meet our guest needs with this new agreement with Tesla." It'll be interesting to watch how these hotels choose to handle the opportunity for the hotels to drive revenue, or will they offer free charging just to draw more guests to stay with them in the first place? Hilton's brand manager did clarify the number one search attribute for our hotels is shuttle access for airports. That's number one. Number two, EV charging. This, of course, is great news for the EV transition and all of the people still driving ICE vehicles on road trips. It's always a pain when you have to decide, do you get gas right before you go to the hotel? Do you get it the next morning before you go on the next part of your trip? Well, if you have an EV, you can just pull up to the hotel and not worry about that at all. And how about this one? There's a new feature in the Project Highland Model 3 that nobody has talked about so far that so many people have complained about and requested. And yes, we know Tesla has had two blind spot monitoring systems, the red lines right on the UI, and we know about the blind spot cameras, but both of these options require the driver to look away and actually look at the screen. But now in the new Model 3, there's a blind spot indicator that is a red light located in the A-pillar speaker housing. It's very hard to see, but keep your eyes over in this section right over here. You will see a light blink as these cars going in the opposite direction actually pass. There it goes. And I paused right here so you can see the light. It does look very small from this angle, and maybe it's different if there's actually a car in your blind spot versus a car just going in that general vicinity, heading the other direction. If you recall this image I shared last week, now we know what the blind spot indicator toggle will be for. You can turn that feature on or off. It should also be noted in the new owner's manual in the EU, they show this image for this blind spot monitoring light, which is indeed red and seems much bigger than what we just saw in that video. And I guess there's a chance there's only one for both sides because the manual says it's located in the upper speaker grille of the driver door, no mention of anything on the passenger side. I still think sometime in the future, maybe Tesla will use that interior ambient light strip for signaling features like that, but for now, this is better than nothing. And if you're wondering why Tesla wouldn't just put a light indicator on the side mirrors like everybody else, I believe it might be a patent situation where Tesla just doesn't want to license that technology, so they're doing this as a workaround. However, that's just my speculation. I'm not positive about that one. The owner's manual for the new Model 3 is now live. I'll have it linked below. Speaking of the Model 3, if we look at Google Trends search volume for the past 5 years worldwide, comparing the Model 3 and the Model Y, you can see the Model 3 search volume is now at an all-time high. Esther also shared this video of the new Model 3's light show. I'm not going to play the audio for copyright purposes, but I did want to play a quick clip to give you an idea. It is still a feature on this vehicle, and as you can see, the trunk is moving with the show as well. Tesla has also added a manual door release in the event your Tesla has no power with this new Model 3 in the rear seat. And yes, there was a time when only the front doors were equipped with a manual door release. We got a great chart from Roland showing us the Model Y is the best-selling BEV in Germany so far year to date. But what I really wanted to highlight is that the VW ID4 and 5, which are actually combined for some reason, don't fall anywhere in the top 10. They actually sit in 11th. And the top 10 models are still being dominated by non-battery electric vehicles. Remember this anecdote about VW BEVs not being in the top 10 because we're coming back to this. Changed my mind, I won't make you wait. We have this from VW boss Oliver Blume: the Chinese are not a big threat to us. To set the backdrop, the VDA, the German Association of the Automotive Industry, has been warning about the competition from the Asian region, how strong it's become, and the competitive advantages those companies have. But apparently, at least publicly, Oliver Blume does not share those fears. This week, he said, the Chinese have learned how to build cars in recent decades. The established European manufacturers still have advantages in comparison. We have the vehicle know-how, we have the level of quality, and we have a brand heritage. The new ones don't have that. We therefore see ourselves well positioned. I just want to say it, resting on your laurels is a very dangerous game. We haven't seen it ever from a company like Tesla, and it really feels like VW and some of the Germans are about to FAFO. He said the Chinese have the advantage of being able to produce much more cheaply at home. He spoke of about 20%. He said, but they're not able to offer the low cost level from the Chinese market in Europe. The reasons are European regulations and the lack of sales networks. We can see on the market that the Chinese offer their vehicles to us in Europe at twice the price they pay in China. The VW boss confirmed the new competition is increasing the pressure on VW & Co., but it also has positive sides because now there's an incentive to constantly improve. Essentially saying the only reason now they want to make their vehicles better is not really for the end customer, but it's just so they don't get totally disrupted. He said, we will have to work hard on the cost side. Batteries in particular must become cheaper, and the aim is also for the return per vehicle to be just as high for EVs as for ICE vehicles by 2030. Translation, VW not expecting to make profit margins with EVs comparable to ICE vehicles until 2030. And the cherry on top, the fact that VW continues to sell combustion engines is an advantage over pure electric car manufacturers because they generate profits and thus make the transformation financially possible in the first place. Does anyone honestly think that selling combustion engines on our way toward a full EV future is a competitive advantage compared to what Tesla is doing, a purely EV maker working from first principles, dominating the global full BEV market? Sure, there's always some folks not paying attention, lost in the sauce with ulterior motives, but for the CEO of VW and Porsche to say this publicly, to me, it's just crazy. And you might be saying, well, Dylan, they are making profits now, so he's kind of right. And look, I hear you, but the thing is, they are until they're not. The point is, we don't know when this gravy train for ICE profits is coming to an end. It could be 2025, it could be 2028. Either way, though, it's coming. And if these companies don't get serious and start moving, they're going to be dead. I don't want to get carried away, but look what we've seen. VW cutting the prices of the ID.4 in China. EV sales in general struggling in China. They're looking for partnerships in China to boost their sales. Their ID.4 and ID.5 sales in Europe, in Germany, have been struggling. And they have still been struggling with software problems. Now, of course, hopefully they figure it out with the ID.7 and they are refreshing the ID.4, but we'll see. Tesla has updated the referral program for the Model S. Now, as a buyer using a referral code, you will only get $500 off instead of $1,000 previously. And for the referrer, he or she will only get 10,000 credits instead of 20,000 before. With about a week to go before a strike could ensue, GM comes to the table with a new offer. GM has proposed a total 16% pay raise for the top wage earners in its plants and a 56% hike for newer employees who make less. But the UAW president said that offer is insulting. Shawn Fain is still pushing for guaranteed pensions, and it's really that part that could inflate some of these costs upwards of $80 billion according to some calculations over 4 years, as well as COLA allowances and retiree healthcare. Fain said the offer doesn't come close to an equitable agreement for America's auto workers. And GM's offer was actually slightly better than Ford's. As I've said all along, this is most likely going to go down to the wire. It's just how you have to negotiate in these scenarios. Looking at the Model X delivery windows after the price drops, both variants are now October to November of this year, up from September to October previously, which is a good sign to see. Meanwhile, both variants of the Model S are both still September to October. Ford has dropped some new details for its upcoming Mustang Mach E Rally that's really geared to be an off-road performance vehicle set to debut next year. They're saying it's set to enter production early 2024 and should be priced around $65,000, but that's subject to change. With a 91 kilowatt hour battery pack, it's said to get around 250 miles on a single charge. DC fast charging up to 150 kilowatts. There are some other design changes as well, both on the exterior and the interior, but if you're interested, I'll put this article below. Fisker said today in the fourth quarter this year, it's looking to boost production of the Ocean SUV from 180 units per day to 300. As of September 4th, Magna has made 3,100 of these vehicles. Just under 300 have been given over to Fisker, and more than 450 in the US have been delivered or are in the process of being delivered. We've started to hear a lot about sodium-ion batteries, and undoubtedly we'll hear much more about it in the months ahead. Just something to keep in mind, this is from Benchmark. In 2024, there's a step increase in sodium-ion capacity that's projected, but 67% of this new capacity is from inexperienced market participants with limited battery manufacturing expertise, and these companies are classified as Tier 2 or 3 cell producers. What does this mean? Well, it renders more than half of the announced capacity speculative at best, dispelling the notion of mass market sodium-ion production this year or in 2024. So yes, they're promising, and yes, they're coming, but let's just keep our expectations in check. Jerry Rig Everything did an awesome video on the current state of battery recycling in the United States from this company Li-Cycle, who we've heard of before. Shout out to Dale for sharing this. Over 2 million people have seen this video already, so I won't spend time here, but I will link it below, and I highly encourage you check it out if you haven't already. But the TLDW is that yes, batteries both from devices and vehicles are already being recycled, so no, they're not ending up in landfills. This is still an argument I hear all the time, so I want to make sure we're all educated and armed with the FUD fighting data to push back on those arguments. So yes, even EV batteries and all the batteries from devices can and are right now being recycled and reused. If you want to explore this topic further, 4 companies in North America leading the charge for battery recycling: of course, Redwood, Cerba Solutions, Ascend Elements, and Li-Cycle. The North American end-of-life battery pool is expected to increase from 3.1 thousand megawatt hours this year to 146.5 thousand megawatt hours in 2035. Despite this expected increase in end-of-life battery stock in North America, that scrap pool is expected to reach just 13% of our region's cell demand in 2032. And we know Tesla is working on something in this realm behind the scenes, so hopefully one day we get a recycling day. Not the sexiest of topics, but a crucial one nonetheless. Shell is putting its residential battery storage and VPP company Sonnen up for sale. This is part of Shell's move away from doing business with retail customers. Just yesterday, we talked about India's desires for more battery energy storage and how all of these plans are going to pave the way for Tesla and India working together the next decade. Fast forward 24 hours and India's government has approved a tender scheme to support the development and construction of BESS assets for delivery by 2030. The cabinet has given its approval to the scheme for viability gap funding, with up to 40% of the capital cost of projects selected through this tender available from the union budget. I know the consumers just want to hear about the cars, but as Tesla investors, we need to be well educated on the energy side. It's coming. Also, just as we've been talking about, this research firm TrendForce just said there's been a 10% drop in the prices of batteries for EVs and energy storage in August, with a further fall expected through this year. This firm blamed the drop on slowing demand for EVs, and that could certainly be part of it, but I think more of it has to do with the supply chain and the cost for the raw materials coming down almost across the board. Chevy has updated the availability of different trims for its Blazer EV, and as you can see, first one, the RSE all-wheel drive, summer 2023. As of yesterday, reservation holders are being sent links for their personal configuration to choose their variant. At an event just yesterday, Jim Farley said, "I found out that people who want to buy electric vehicles just want really good stuff. They don't want science projects, they want a really great product. Talking about Farley deciding to split up Ford's businesses into 3 different divisions, he said, "I don't have the time for ICE people to learn about EVs and digital embedded vehicle architecture. I had to set up almost a competing organization that has some dependency on each other." He said it was creating these different divisions that's giving them the ability to compete with Tesla when they do things like cutting their prices by $20,000, which they now have. And he said sometimes Kaizen, which is a Japanese principle of continuous improvement, are little improvements every day, and sometimes Kaizen means completely rewriting your entire engineering approach. Kaizen just happens to be a principle I think Oliver Bloom and VW's board would be well served to adopt. Sawyer said Tesla removed the Cybertruck delivery event invite from the referral program, potentially indicating they're close to their max entrance allowed, but Tesla did say that they'll release additional tickets as the event draws near. Lucid is exploring selling its cars in China but has no timeline. Lucid's chief engineer Eric Bach said if you enter China on the wrong terms, you can make a lot of mistakes. But he said Lucid has a team on the ground in China exploring the viability of entering the market. And he confirmed a mid-size car could be unveiled in 2026. Hope you guys have a wonderful day. You can find me on X, linked below. Please like the video if you did, and a huge thank you to all of my Patreon supporters.